Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of our build of SuperFly 2. In this episode here, I want to focus on, you can see this here, some damages on the chassis. In the last episode, I did talk about how this is a vintage chassis. It's got its share of use. I mean, really, it's not, unless you look at this, it's not too badly worn. There is some damage to it, there's some cracks, and I'm kind of a fan of using these older beat up chassis because I don't want to have one of them on my my cleaner Hornets, and this car is going to be heavily used, so I do want to take care of this to kind of try and reinforce it and make it a little bit stronger. So that is what we're going to focus on here. And even though this is going to focus on the Hornet, please note that this is going to apply to anything using ABS, simply because the chemical that I'm going to use to repair this works very well on plastics like ABS and polystyrene. Now, step one is I would like to kind of bond this area back together a bit. You can kind of see it's split just a little bit right there. So I want to make sure that when I'm gluing this, it is in its proper position. So I'm going to use this stuff here. This is from Micro Mark. The active ingredient in this is methylene chloride, and what that does effectively melts the plastic. You can see here it works on styrene, ABS, acrylic, and the two that I want to focus on here are the styrene and the ABS, because I'm going to be bonding the ABS together with styrene. However, if I had some ABS laying about, I would use it to just go ahead and bond ABS to ABS. So now there's a lot of different things you can use. I happen to like this because it melts the plastic and for me bonds it on a more of a molecular level. You know, there are a lot of glues. This stuff is, even though it's 4 tire glue, it's by AKA, this stuff is absolutely outstanding. Although I do commonly use Gorilla Glue, the super glue from Gorilla Glue. And let's not forget Shoe Glue for any of your flexible, components. This stuff is unbelievable if you've got a cracked Lexan shell or something that requires some flexibility. All right, now with this stuff here is it's kind of watery. Now be careful because it has basically no smell, but it has very, very bad vapors. So you want to make sure that you do this in a ventilated environment or use very, very small amounts. This is dangerous. So let's go ahead and place it on this. And what I want to do is kind of press this together. I'm going to try and do this. It's always fun to do this on camera. Squeeze these together, take this out, and basically just kind of drop it in the area where the crack is. It wicks itself into the small cracks. And you don't want to mess with it too much because it will start to melt the plastic, and that's what we're looking at here. So I'm just kind of squeezing it together. And it doesn't work like glue. Glue has a drying time. This here, it is sucking itself into the cracks, melting the plastics a bit, and I don't know how easy you can see this. I don't know how easy you can see it. Basically, the more of this you use, the more it melts the plastic and the longer it will take to evaporate and the plastic to set. So just a couple little drops like I did. In fact, I may have done a little bit too much, and you should be good to go. So at this point here, okay, I'm just going to give it another couple of minutes and I'll be right back. So the plastic has cured. Now this only took a couple of minutes, and it is now bonded together. The crack may still be visible, as in you'll see the area where it was cracked before. In some cases you'll see a little bit of a puffiness in that area. It's because as you're squeezing it together, the plastic is melting and kind of puffing back out. But effectively, we have removed the crack. It is no longer cracked through the plastic. However, it is still weak in that area, so what I want to do is reinforce it. And to do that, I'm going to use a little sheet of styrene. If I had a piece of ABS, that would be, I think, a little bit better because they're like materials, although I find that the styrene really reacts to this plastic welder incredibly nicely. But you do want to use kind of a beefy styrene. If you use a very, very thin one, styrene is not the most durable stuff on the planet. So you want to use something with a little bit of thickness to it. This one here is about 2 millimeters thick. I wouldn't go with anything thinner. So I'm going to make a little patch that fits in this area here, and then in this area here. But the problem with this is I can't go to the edge because it'll come into contact with the arm as it swings down. So I'll just put a little tiny patch right in this area here. Very happy I put the A-arms in the last episode. All right, I'm going to go cut a couple pieces of this out and I'll be right back. Well, I've gone ahead and cut out a couple little pieces of styrene here. One to fit in this area, and one to fit in the little vertical area here. I'm gonna put this piece in first. So I hope you can see this okay. I'm just gonna set it right in. Stay there. I'm going to use the tip of the razor blade here because I don't want to touch it, as this stuff here, like I said, it does tend to melt the plastic. Oh, sorry, it's a little bit blurry, but there you get the idea. So hold it where you want it, and do not spread this on both mating surfaces. You don't want to do that. You want to put the part, in this case here, the patch, where I want it to be placed, and the plastic welder will wick itself into that area. So let's do a little drip there. Okay, and that's it. I want to do from the bottom as well, but obviously the razor blade's in the way, so I'm just going to do that. And it may be a little hard to see, but on my end, I'm pushing just a little bit on the styrene here, and I can see the edge of the styrene starting to blister. And what's happening is it is melting itself onto the ABS. Again, be incredibly careful with this because the plastic welder, despite the fact that it has no smell, is very toxic, and I was just playing with a X-Acto knife, and that is not a toy. Okay, that is in. So it goes, dries very quickly. I'm going to run a little bead along the bottom as well to get it to wick up in there, and I think that is it. It's hard to see. Oh, yeah, actually, you can see it pretty well. It's slowly pulling itself into the gaps behind it. And while we're there, again, I'll just kind of squeeze it in. I just want to make sure you actually can see it pretty well on camera. Okay, I really want to get this styrene to be melted in there. And my last patch is going to go right there. So same kind of deal. Let's just squeeze that in place. I'll set it right there, and we'll just run a patch, or run a little bead, excuse me, around the perimeter. All like that. While I'm doing this here, I don't know if everybody across the globe has access to this plastic welder. I purchased this from a company called Micromark. They focus on model train, primarily model train tools and things to help build some of the smaller scale details associated with model trains. So if you are looking for something like this, maybe in your area, go to a hobby shop that would have model trains, and you most likely will find something like this. I'm sure you can go pick up the chemical necessary for this. I don't think that's such a good idea because I'm sure there's other things in this that make it a little less volatile. Well, while you were gone, I noticed that that side was cracked, and that was cracked, and that was cracked. So there we have it. They were pretty small hairline fractures, but the procedure was the same. Drop a little bit of the plastic welder in that area, hold the seam together. When that's dry, go ahead and cut out the styrene and just patch it up. It's definitely not pretty. If this was not going to be what it's going to be, I would make it, maybe paint it black or something. In fact, I really should paint it black, but the thing is, I want this to be known. I am so confident that this cage will reinforce the chassis to such a degree that these will never break again. I know this because of SuperFly. So let's take the front end off of SuperFly here, and we can see these patches there, and there. And I wish you could really get in there and take a look at these here. But basically, all these shock towers are broken. And I have, I remember initially locating these cracks in this chassis. This is the first chassis I've ever had. This is from my original Hornet. So it is, I've had it since the early 1990s. So this chassis has seen a lot of wear and tear. Oops. Let's flip you over. I pretty much found no reason to get rid of it. In fact, I had a number of people argue with me and tell me that their Hornets, their vintage Hornet runners were not cracked there. Look at your ancient Hornet. I guarantee you they're broken. These are just really weak spots. Your Grasshopper probably isn't, but your Hornet is going to most likely have these cracks. It's a good patch to make the chassis last a little bit longer. And in the case of SuperFly and upcoming SuperFly 2, this cage is going to reinforce the chassis to make sure that these never crack again. Well, I am happy to say that the geometry of the front end is all squared away now. Now we've got everything nice and tidy. And oh, put the arm on upside down. Dang it. I'll fix that soon. The next episode, I am going to complete the cantilever setup on this car. So we are going to use many pieces. And what else is missing? A U, and basically I've got 2 sets of those. And some ball bearings to make a complete cantilever front suspension. I've also got the shocks, so we'll talk about how to do all of that, what shocks to use, what ball bearings to use, if you in fact also want to have a cantilever setup on your Hornet. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode, which had nothing to do at all with 3D printed parts or my design, but I think it's a pretty useful little thing to have here. I swear by this stuff, so if you are in the US, this stuff's pretty easy to come by. Again, I apologize that if you are in another country that doesn't have this brand, just, ask, go to a hobby shop and look for a plastic welder and you should be all set. So the disclaimer is always, just because this works for me doesn't mean it'll work for you. I'm in California, so we have very low humidity, maybe a higher humidity climate. This might have a problem. I don't know. So just know that although it works for me, I can't swear that it's going to work for you as well. I can only give you the best guess, at least some of my experience in what has worked for me. If you enjoyed this episode, then we're only going to go uphill from here, I tell you that much. Please subscribe and you'll be notified as soon as possible when I upload my new videos for SuperFly 2, as well as my future craziness that's also going on. If you liked the video, please hit that little like button. If you have any questions, go ahead and post away and I will do my best to answer. Before you take off, please check out the band Blue Pinto. They allow me to use their songs in my videos. A link to their page is in the credits. And speaking of links, you'll find links to my Shapeways page, as well as my Instagram and Facebook pages, both and Pro Engineering. I look forward to the next video, and I will see you next time.